So again, welcome everyone. We're glad you're here for tonight's 350 Wisconsin meeting. Before we really get going, in the spirit of it being the new year, we're going to hear a special rendition of a New Year's song by our very own 350 Wisconsin caroling crew. And Julia is going to share that video. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that New Year's spirit and is on board with continuing to do the important work that's in front of us for our planet and the climate. So welcome again, everybody. My name is Christina Cook. I'm one of the 350 Wisconsin monthly meeting team members, along with Julia Isaacs, Marion Friedel, Kelly Kearns, and Susan Nossel, and we're the ones that are organizing and running this meeting tonight, along with our speaker, Heather Phelps. And the first thing we're going to do is take 2 deep breaths. And take this time to recognize where we are. And so we want to use this time to acknowledge the many Indigenous tribes who lived on these lands for many years before European settlers arrived and forcibly removed them. And you can see a map of what that looked like on the left. Right now, I'm located on the traditional territory of the Ho-Chunk people, who remain in this land despite forcible removal and long journeys to return. And so we want to acknowledge the Ho-Chunk and others who have stewarded this land in the past, in the present, and work towards its preservation in the future. So with that, here's an overview of what we're going to do tonight. So we had our little New Year's video and our land acknowledgement. And in place of kind of a icebreaker at the beginning, we're actually going to do some breakout rooms in just a minute where we'll split off into smaller groups, and you'll have a chance to chat with 2 to 3 other people. And we want to welcome everyone, whether you've been to many meetings like this or whether this is your first one. If you're new, at the end, there will be a chance to connect with someone who can tell you a little more about 350 Wisconsin and how to get involved. And then after our breakout rooms, those will be about 10 minutes long, we'll have our main speaker for the evening, Heather Phelps, sharing about her experience witnessing global climate action at COP28. And then there'll be some time for Q&A after Heather's presentation. We'll have some updates and announcements. And then at the end of the meeting, again, they'll have if you're new, you'll have a chance to connect with someone at 350 Wisconsin, or you'll be able to pop into a breakout room for more Q&A time with our speaker. So we want just one final note before we break off into our breakout rooms. We want 350 Wisconsin's public meetings like this one to be welcoming and supportive for all people, regardless of background or identity. And so we have a short code of conduct, some general principles of how we want to treat each other so that this remains a welcoming and thoughtful and safe environment for as many people as possible. So I think that's been put in the chat. And I'll now stop sharing my slides and let Susan open the breakout rooms. Ooh, hold on. In the breakout rooms, please feel free to introduce yourself, how you're involved with 350 Wisconsin, if at all, and share your response to the following question: what opportunities do you see to work for climate in 2024? With that, enjoy getting to meet a couple people. Hopefully everyone had a chance to meet someone new or catch up with old friends and think a little bit about what you're hoping to do for the climate in 2024. And I think, let me take a look. Next up is our speaker. And I've lost where Julia is, but Julia, if you're there, can you introduce our speaker for the evening?
I am. It's my pleasure to introduce Heather Phelps, who is a resource specialist at the Wisconsin Center for Environmental Education, WCEE. And what she does is she sends kits with hands-on materials to educators around the state. She also engages high school green teams around the state and supports sustainability efforts in their schools. Heather has worked with the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change, a group many of us have worked with. She's been a youth librarian, and she's taught English in the Philippines and China. And I think I will mention that she's also the daughter of Carol Phelps, who many of us know from her being so active in 350 Wisconsin. Heather, let's hear about your trip to Dubai.
All right. I am so happy to share this with you all. So let's see. All right. Everyone's seeing the slides like you're supposed to?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So I attended COP28. COP stands for Conference of the Parties. This is the 28th year that they've had that. Minus 1 year for COVID, but otherwise they've been going on every year. This is the same annual conference that brought us the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. Whether this year will end up being as memorable as either of those remains to be seen. But it was held November 30th through December 13th in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. So as you can see from this globe they had on display, truly the center of the world. Over here on the left, you can see Africa, Europe's up in the top left, and then we have the Arabian Peninsula right in the middle, and then, of course, the UAE, the bright, shining center of things. So I arrived at something like midnight after 26 hours in transit. Not fun, but the hotel was very excited to welcome us. It was a lovely looking hotel, had a few minor issues like, you know, if you're on the 4th floor, hot water, water pressure at all might not reach you, but you know, minor issues. Dubai is an incredibly huge modern city that was largely built off of oil profits over the last few decades. It also has a lot of culture there. This is the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi, the capital, a couple hours away from Dubai, that our group visited. If it looks like the Taj Mahal, there's a reason for that. It was inspired by that. But rather than being a mausoleum, it is a mosque designed to fit, you know, 40,000 people. It is absolutely gorgeous. Every square inch of this thing is covered in beautiful mosaics, gorgeous decorations. You see the 99 names of Allah here on the right. Just to give you a small sense of scale, here they are behind our tour guide on the left. There's also like the Dubai Mall, which has a 3-story waterfall in it, because why not put a 3-story waterfall inside a shopping mall in the middle of a desert? But it was incredibly fun to just wander around, see everything. The diamond encrusted scepter, and then, of course, the tallest building in the world right outside the mall. So then this was the group I went with. We were called the Christian Climate Observers Group, a non-denominational Christian group. Part of it is, I don't know, in Christian circles, especially more conservative ones, then there's this strong emphasis on, you know, well, I don't know, not an emphasis exactly, but people aren't really tend to be concerned about the climate. And then, of course, that means that once you're in climate change circles, then a lot of people aren't really talking about their faith. And so this was a chance to bring together mostly young people from a lot from the US, but also around the world. We had something like 8 countries there represented, who all of us care about the climate because of our Christian faith. And so I think, especially for some of the younger members of the group, or the people who came from more conservative areas, then just being in a group with this many other people who care about both those elements together was kind of a revelation that, yes, there are other people out there like us who also exist. So that, I think, was really special for all of us to be doing this because we care about the climate and because of our faith. So they were trying, not succeeding, but trying to limit the number of people there. So the organizations they gave badges to, there are very limited numbers of badges. And so this is a group of about 40. We had 20 of us who came for the first week of the conference. And then those slots at the conference, those red, badges, were transferred over to the next group for the second week of the conference. So we each got the chance to experience it, but we weren't, any of us, except for the leaders, staying for the whole 2 weeks. But doing this together was really awesome, and here we are with our badges. Of course, it was a big event. I think the final numbers I heard were something like 85,000 delegates attending, with up to like 97,000 people once staff were added in. So even after our hour-and-a-half subway ride from our hotel to the site every morning, then we might have another 30 minutes to an hour just standing in lines to get in. This was the line just to reach the line to get to security. Then this is a map of the blue zone. The line you just saw was kind of right out here, and then we have our central pathway. There are some of the main official rooms up here at the top, and then a bunch of smaller pavilions around these two. I don't know, when you see the whole thing, it looks kind of like the petals of a flower or the blades of a wind turbine. But this looks like a very, I don't know, reasonable, comprehensible sort of map, right up until you check the scale of it. So down here by this B4 number, then there are a couple of, I don't know, arrow-looking gray spots. Those are entire hotel, right in the middle of everything. So using that as a scale, you can see that this is a big space. And once we add in the green zone, which I'll talk about near the end, it's actually about twice the size of Disneyland in California. And of course, trying to put together Disneyland, it's a big process. So yeah, they were still finishing up putting up the maps as we were coming in the first day. This is that central walkway down to the two hotels and the big dome. Dome, I heard, was the size that you could fit the Leaning Tower of Pisa inside of it, just to give you one more concept of the scale. But yeah, this was the main COP venue, and I will admit, being here in 85-degree weather every day, sunny, was a nice change. So, opening session, this is just the overflow room for that. The main room was another room at least this size, but here we are all gathered together to listen to Sultan Al-Jaber open the conference. That was one of the big questions of the conference. Sultan Al-Jaber, at the same time as he was COP president, is also the head of the country's oil company. And of course, he's busy saying, oh, yes, this is a plus. We can get, oil companies on board in agreement with this. And, they did have some good agreements on methane regulation and so forth. But at the same time, stories came out during the conference about him denying some of the science of climate change, and just, there were like 600 fossil fuel representatives. So what does it mean to have a climate change conference run by an oil executive? And we get to find that out again next year, which was just announced and is quite unfortunate. So some of the people I got to see, I don't know if anyone of you recognize any of them, but over here on the far left, we have John Kerry, the US climate somebody. This was as close as I ever got to see to him. Sessions with him filled up very fast, and then he didn't even go to half of them because he was busy in all the deep negotiations. Right up middle left, you might all recognize her, Mayor of Madison, talking about what local governments can do, particularly the electric buses of Madison's new BRT line. Then bottom center, this is me with I think she's the senior climate communicator of World Wildlife Fund, which was awesome. And then on the far right, then we have, you might have to move your display of people's faces to see her. But on the far right, you see Hillary Clinton moderating a session on women and climate. Here we have me with Marinelle Ubaldo, Philippine climate activist. And then this was getting to see Al Gore. I did not get to shake his hand right after I snapped his picture. He had to go give a speech. But the person right in front of me there, Samuel, was one of the leaders of our group. So it was awesome that I got to get this close at any rate. So this thing was huge. This is, just to give you an idea, this is 1 day's program at a single pavilion. So multiply this by a pavilion for nearly every country in the world, various nonprofit pavilions, organizational pavilions, and then of course all the official UN events and side events, and just trying to keep track of everything that was going on in a single day to even figure out if you wanted to attend it was really challenging. And then especially because so many of these things were just full of jargon and acronyms. Saving the cheetah, I can guess that one, but moving forward on NBS, who knows? You have to be in the know. Of course, the official discussions were about drafting the global stocktake document. Things like just, every country saying one after another, okay, in paragraph 95, we want it to read like this instead of like that. And of course, the challenge of these COP agreements is that they are not done by voting, they are done by consensus. Every country has to agree on the final text for it to be implemented. But there were also plenty of smaller events, even among the official ones, with round tables and discussion. This was the president of Slovenia talking about climate change education requirements that she's put in place in Slovenia. And this was, I was honestly surprised at the number of young people. So this was a Girl Scout from Tanzania, interviewing her country's climate advisor. Also from that same session, this is quite the poignant quote. World Wildlife Fund, they've really been dedicated, even when the US wasn't there officially, they stayed going to COP. They presented, among other things, about what we need to do to actually meet our climate goals, complete phase out of fossil fuels. That's what we need to do. No new coal, oil, and gas exploration. Of course, you wonder when the UAE is there in force. But they're pointing out that they need energy for things like desalination to have enough water. Also, just a bunch of smaller booths. This one is a young university student demonstrating his solar road concept. Of course, the press was there in force as well, and it was fun to see. Then finally, I mentioned the green zone. So everything I've shown you so far was in this blue area that required the official diplomatic letters and authorization. The green zone, anyone could come for free. So we saw like a lot of local school groups there. They had some fun sustainability features. On the left is a display by a health organization with quite the sobering statistics. On the right, a camel pointing out that it's not just sea creatures who die from eating plastic. Camels do the same thing. They also had much more positive things. Both of these are fully electric. So then the big question, was it successful? Was it successful? Well, this picture is not one I took. This is from I was back at home by this point. But this is from their closing document, calling it the UAE consensus. But it really is a question, is this as wonderful as they say it is? Or is this more hype? We want to be the biggest, the best. Anything anyone could do, we could do better. If that means hosting a climate conference, we're going to talk it up as being the best thing ever. Well, that is the question. So, go to the COP28 website. They will say, we united, we acted, we delivered. Did they deliver? Well, this agreement that they finally came up with, the one that was written by consensus, has in its 28 pages, probably the single most important sentence in quite a few of these COP decisions. Transition away from fossil fuels in energy systems in a just, orderly, and equitable manner. Last year was the first time that coal as a fossil fuel was mentioned at all. Prior to that, these agreements just talked about emissions. And now we actually get the statement, transition away from fossil fuels. This is a big deal. And yet, also, the verb that goes with this is that this document calls on countries to transition away. It does not require. There is no enforcement. It calls upon them to transition away. And yes, it took 28 years to come to this. So whether this happens or not is up to every country on Earth, and whether we actually do this. We have a roadmap. It says, we need to triple renewable energy by 2030. We need to double the increase of energy efficiency improvements annually by 2030. But will we do that? So I have one final quote on the bottom, which, let's see if I can move this so I can see. We didn't turn the page on the fossil fuel era in Dubai, but this outcome is the beginning of the end. I hope that's true. I really, really hope that is true. But it will take all of us pushing our leaders at all levels to actually follow through on what we as a country have committed ourselves to. And that's the story.
Thank you so much, Heather. We have a whole bunch of questions already, even before you finished talking, but I did welcome questions as you went. You want to take down your slides so I can share some of these questions with you. Russ has a question that Bill McKibben said the real action was in the streets with the protesters. Did you see any protesters?
So that was tough. The UAE has historically not been very kind or supportive to protesters and protests. So while I was there, the COP28 grounds are actually like UN grounds, and so there were some demonstrations there. I saw, some people putting on gas masks in preparation for some sort of demonstration. But, I heard that when my mom went, there was a whole climate march in Madrid through the city, and there was nothing like that. And of course, the other thing was just, if you have a space twice the size of Disneyland, just because there's a group of people at one location doing something interesting doesn't mean anybody anywhere else in the grounds even knows it's happening.
Right. Here's a question from Kathy Kuntz. So I guess was your former employer when you were working at the Dane County office. Did you come back from COP more or less optimistic about our global climate efforts?
I think more optimistic. I mean, I think there are a lot of things it would have been nice to see in that final agreement that we did not see. You know, I would have loved to have a binding agreement that said, yes, we are absolutely going to require everyone to get rid of fossil fuels super fast. And, you know, but realistically, that was never going to happen. And so within the range of things that there is any possible chance of getting Saudi Arabia to agree to, Russia to agree to, you know, this was honestly more than I was expecting, that we would actually have something that specifically said transition away from fossil fuels, that they did not object to or strike down. So just in terms of that, I think it was indeed a very positive outcome. And just this was like twice the size of last year's COP, and that it's daunting. It caused a lot of difficulties in a lot of ways. But and you can say, okay, how terrible it is that this is taken over by fossil fuels, when even like, I don't know, the CEO of Shell is there. But look at it slightly differently, and it's like the world is realizing this is the place to be. The world is realizing that if you're going to be a company, even an oil company, this is something you have to go to. And having this, you know, it started as this like tiny little thing with a few thousand, you know, diplomats saying, okay, yeah, sure, we'll come together and we'll write some documents, and have this turn into something that the entire globe is saying, this is important, we need to be there for. That's huge.
Thank you. I'm seeing 3 questions that I think are asking similar questions. Mark Johnson says, you know, there's a lot of folks in the green zone, the civil society groups, the international NGOs, the advocacy organizations in the green zones. Then there's the official delegates in the blue zone. So his question is, how do they interact? And Kelly Kern says, did the decision makers seem to be influenced by the protesters or others in the green zone? And Kermit said, what impact do the NGOs and the general public able to make on the official blue zone? So do you have any sense of that interaction between, I guess it's the green and blue zones?
Yeah. So there were definitely some things that I thought were pretty cool in the green zone. I a lot of them I wasn't all that impressed with. They seemed to be more companies wanting to show off their cool new AI tools rather than actually some useful piece of climate advocacy. There was the advantage that the green and blue zones were basically next door. There was the disadvantage that both of them were so huge that you know, you really had to make an effort to carve out some time to go spend in the green zone. But just the fact that there was that quantity of civil society, that there were that many people, even with the official blue zone delegation badges from the NGOs, from the nonprofits, then I think that really did make a difference. That I don't think any of the official official negotiators could have like turned around without bumping into someone from civil society who's there because they believe that climate change is the most important issue of our times. And so it's really hard to say, but I do believe that that had a very positive impact on just how far the negotiations were pushed.
Thank you. So for my final question, and then there'll be more during the breakout, two questions. Two people asked sort of the question of your group. Did your group go to the conference with a goal to work together on a project, or what were the objectives of your group?
So I think it was several different things. Partly it was going to be a moral Christian witness at the conference. But I think even more than that, it was for precisely this reason, to come back home with the stories of what happened, having observed what happened in person on the ground, and then be able to share that with all the people who are not able to just like fly over to the other side of the world to go to a conference, and then use these stories and use this experience to help continue to inspire people.
Well, thank you. I personally found your talk inspiring in some sense, although I also am, it is discouraging, as one comment that took 28 years to mention fossil fuels. But thank you so much, Heather. I think there will be many people who want to stay for the breakout session to ask you more questions. So I'm going to turn it back to Christina for some overall updates from 350 Wisconsin, different teams.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So thanks, Julia, and thanks, Heather, for sharing your experience with us. So we're going to have a couple announcements and action updates from our teams next. And I believe up first we have Brittany to share about line 5 work.
I'm here. Hi, sorry, losing my buttons here. There we go. Hello. Yeah, so I know that this was shared last month as well. Just something that we're really trying to push out here is this petition to the Army Corps of Engineers for the proposed line 5 reroute around the Bad River Reservation in northern Wisconsin. So right now, what the Army Corps plans to do is just do an environmental assessment, which is the lesser of the options of, environmental assessment versus environmental impact statement and study. So right now they are planning on only doing an environmental assessment and not on the entire portion of the reroute, just on one specific area where drilling would happen under the White River, and also in one specific area under the Clean Water Act. So what we are asking them to do is to do as full and as thorough of input and research into this as possible, to make sure that they're not taking any shortcuts, and that they're not continuing to allow Enbridge to gamble with our Great Lakes. Excuse me. And we also plan to deliver these petition signatures in person to the Army Corps of Engineers DC office sometime in February or March. And I believe that the link for the petition got put in the chat as well. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brittany. And then I'm going to actually let Julia share a video that speaks to why we care about this. Julie, I'm not sure I hear the sound.
Protect all the water will we. Protect all the water now. Protect all the water will we. Time's a wasting. Let's do it now.
Disaster out here, and in fact, they've just declared a state of emergency. 877,000 gallons of oil, 16 miles of affected area. Obviously, wildlife has been affected. Birds and fish have been coated in oil. This pipeline is owned by a company called Enbridge Energy Partners. We'll have more on that for you a bit later.
Protect all the water will we. Protect all the water will we. Protect all the water will be. And you hear, yeah. Can you hear her?
The fight to shut down a 70-year-old oil pipeline brought people from across the state together after a federal judge ruled it's operating on native land illegally.
Young climate activists from across the state calling for the Wisconsin DNR to permanently shut down a northern Wisconsin oil pipeline.
Knowing that that's in my state, I don't think we should be taking that risk. We want to have clean water, clean air, and a healthy future.
I'm always in what's doing now. Always in what's doing now. It's always in what's doing now. And you hear crying. Can't you hear her call? Mother Earth is trying. Save her for the love of it all.
All right. And if anyone, I know the sound was maybe a little garbled for folks. The link has been shared in the chat, so you can also look the video up on YouTube to hear the music and see the demonstration. So we're gonna march onward with our announcements. Let me get my slides back up. And I believe up next, we have Christina.
That's you.
That's me. I'm the one sharing. It's like, is there another Christina in the room? So this is an announcement about an upcoming webinar this coming Wednesday on divesting from militarism, investing in life. You can see there's a great variety of diversity of speakers, and the registration link will be put into the chat. Then up next, I think we have Kristen.
Hi everyone, my name is Kristen Clark. I'm the development manager, and I just have a super quick update for you all. I want to say thank you to everyone. It's always the last few months of the years are the big fundraising push, and we're so grateful for all the support we've had from everyone through Giving Tuesday and through this end of year fundraising push. So just wanted to say thank you so much. And you probably won't see me at monthly meetings like you have the past couple months, because that push is kind of moving on to a different phase. But so thank you all for your support. And if you haven't had a chance to support us, we are still just a little bit short of our goal. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in the chat just some information. So if you haven't had a chance to and you would like to, there's still time to donate and help us reach our goal so that we can start this year as strong as we can. Because as you all know, we have a lot of really great plans to do a lot of really great work this year, and your donation helps that. Also, just wanted to bring attention really quickly to our new mailing address. It seems that the US Postal Service is not necessarily forwarding 100% of our mail, that only some of the mail is getting forwarded to our new address, which is not great. So if you have sent us something and it got returned to you, or you sent something and you want to make sure we got it, feel free to reach out to me. I put my email in the chat, and then as well as that is our new address. So if you ever need to mail us something, that's the place. That's all I have, unless Stephanie wants to jump in and add anything.
No, thanks. That was great. Thanks so much, Kristen. And thanks, just to echo everyone, echo her thanks to everyone for your generous contributions this year. We very much appreciate it.
All right. Next up is Mike.
Hey, thank you. So I'm Michael Friend. I co-lead the Regenerative Land Relations team, which is a somewhat new team that grew out of the CCST. We focus on land-based solutions to climate change. And I wanted to let you know about a fun event that's happening in Kenosha this Saturday. It's not technically affiliated with 350 Wisconsin. We didn't arrange this, but it's related to our work. It's a screening of Common Ground, which is the sequel to a much acclaimed documentary about regenerative agriculture, if you've ever heard of Kiss the Ground. It's a documentary that highlights a number of farmers, researchers, and activists who've seen the corrosive effects of industrial agriculture and how regenerative practices have the potential to repair the damage our food systems have done and contribute to a healthy climate. So there is a screening of that sequel happening this Saturday, January 13th. There's one at 3 p.m. and one at 6:30 p.m. at UW Parkside, which is 900 Wood Road in Kenosha. The tickets are $10 to $12, and I'm going to drop a link to the ticket purchase platform on Eventbrite in the chat there. It's there now. I'm also happy to help coordinate a carpool. We found out about this a little bit too close to the holidays to arrange like a bus or anything. But you know, if people are interested in going down and want to save some emissions, save some car trips, I'm happy to help coordinate. I won't be driving anyone because I'm down in Illinois. If somebody who is closer to home in Madison wants to help with carpooling, that'd be much appreciated as well. But I'm going to drop my email address into the chat if you're interested in carpool as well. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
I'm going to unmute myself. Thanks, Mike. Emily or Stephanie, does one of you want to share about this?
It's me. Sorry, I'm kind of flushed. I've been painting my office wall. Some of you might know that we started doing this new staff office hours thing. So it's every the fourth Tuesday of the month. So this month that will be Tuesday, January 23rd. And it's just a great time to stop in, say hi. We'll have at least one staff member, sometimes two there. So say hi, give us your ideas, give us some feedback, ask a question, check in on how my office painting is going, you know, whatever. There's no need to RSVP. We'll just have someone sort of hanging out on Zoom for a couple hours, so just drop in whenever you want. The public 350 Wisconsin calendar, which is on our website, has the Zoom link for that, or you can just email one of us and we'll be happy to get that to you. Yeah, so just stop in, say hi, share your ideas, give us feedback. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for doing that. And I hope everyone takes advantage if you have questions or want to chat with 350 Wisconsin staff. So finally, last announcement, we have our next monthly meetings planned. So in February, we'll be hearing from two folks from Chicago, I believe, and their work in climate justice with resident science and the Chicago Heat Mapping Project. Should be very, very interesting, and highly encourage everyone to come. And then in March, we'll be having Martha Pacheco sharing a little bit about eco-anxiety and climate grief. So that should also be very, very interesting. So our monthly meetings are typically the first Monday of the month. So put these on your calendar and hope that you'll be able to join us. So with that, these slides, I believe, are often shared, and the recording will be online as well. So you don't need to frantically take down this information, but these are the regular meeting times and contacts for various teams taking action as part of 350 Wisconsin, as well as teams kind of supporting the organization itself. And with that, we can stop the recording. Kelly or Marion, whoever